survivor pools after this one this weekend. A little deeper, a little harder.
Twist.
Day to forget for Jared Goff. Finished with 3 interceptions, coughed up a fumble that was picked up by former Ram and Ndamukong Suh for a touchdown. Rams suffer their first loss of the season, falling to the Bucs 55-40. In the process, Nick suffers a tough one. He's out of his survivor pool.
Thanks, Jenna.
Insane. Hey, see, what'd you make of Goff's performance yesterday?
Well, you know, to me, and this is what we should get used to. Not as far as Jared Goff, but Todd Gurley is not going to be 100%. All right? You're not going to. I don't think ever again.
Oh.
All right? I'd be totally shocked. Not unless he goes to Europe and does some regenerative tissues type something with his knee. No. When you have an arthritic knee and you're 25 years old, they put you on a pitch count in training camp where you're practicing every other day. That means there's a significant problem with that knee. And you could see in the game that this is a team without explosive Todd Gurley, but they're trying to run the same things. And when you don't have that influence of that run action, which leads to screens and to play action, Jared Goff, he's marginalized as a quarterback. Now, I know, man, people say, oh, McVay, he's a genius and everything. You can only do so much hocus and pocus, all right? The league is starting to catch up.
Yep.
They start to recognize their sets. And yesterday was a good example because that defense is going to give up some big plays. They're going to have some games where they give up a bunch of points. And we saw that last year with the Rams, and now we're seeing again this year. Now, yesterday to me was the first sign that the Rams that's a Super Bowl hangover right there. When you lose at home to a Tampa Bay team that's coming off an awful loss last week where they miss a couple extra points and a short field goal to win the game, they fly to L.A. and do that to you, this is something to watch with the Rams because I believe that Nick, you had them making the playoffs.
No,
you had Seattle.
I had Seattle winning the division. I had the Rams out for a lot of reasons that were seen.
And the things that you're saying, particularly, we're getting ready to see, man, they're going to be true. That was a tough, tough loss yesterday to the Buccaneers.
You've been on the Gurley thing ever since we heard the news of the arthritic knee. 5 carries for Todd Gurley. 5 carries, and I understand they were out of it early, but it seemed like they were out of it early. It's 21-0, but then it was 21-14. This was a 1 or 1.5 score game, if you will. A lot of the second, third, and fourth quarters, they could have run the ball, except they couldn't run the ball because Todd Gurley's not the same guy. I'm going to focus on Jared Goff because I thought they weren't going to give him that contract extension. Right now, Jared Goff is one of the, statistically, the 5 worst starting quarterbacks in football. Nobody has more interceptions on the season. He has 6 touchdowns to 7 turnovers. He's 27th in passer rating. And what we are seeing is a perfect storm of a quarterback coming back down to earth. You have Belichick giving the whole league the blueprint. You have the rest of the league also independently catching up to Sean McVay. You have Todd Gurley not being the same guy anymore, and you have Jared Goff, who's probably playing a little over his skis the last couple of seasons. I think the Rams are potentially in big trouble this year and moving forward. You have the highest paid quarterback and running back, and the running back is damaged goods, and the quarterback there were questions about beforehand. I think the Rams, I know they're 3-1, and I know they were undefeated, and I know they scored 40 points. Goff was awful in this game, and he's yet to be great in any game this season.
And that's a defense in Tampa Bay that Danny Dimes picked apart last week in his first start. So what you're saying is magnified by, wow, look what that defense last week was not able to do against a rookie in his first start, now getting that big win in Los Angeles. This is something that we should watch.
All right, let's move on to the battle for AFC East supremacy. Yesterday, yes, you heard me right, Pats and Bills. Second quarter, New England in the red zone, but Tom Brady, you don't see this often, picked off by Micah Hyde. Tough day for Brady, finished up with just 150 yards, no touchdowns. Fourth quarter now, Josh Allen scrambling, takes a big hit. He'd have to leave the game with a head injury. He would not return. Bills stay in this. They've got one last chance, down 6. But Allen's replacement, Matt Barkley, valiant effort, just not quite valiant enough. Pats barely escape Buffalo with a win, thanks to their defense. 16-10, your final. New England stays undefeated. Here's Tom Brady on his lackluster performance.
We just didn't do a very good job, I would say, of consistently doing the right thing against a really good defense that certainly plays well at home. But it's good to win, and whether we win 45-40 or 45-3 or whatever it was, say 16-10, they all count the same. We're just going to have to figure out how to do a better job on offense. Defense is, I know they're going to play great. They've been playing great all season long, and try to score more points than we did today.
All right, CC, before we get to whether every win should be counted exactly the same, were you more impressed yesterday by the Patriots' resiliency, or were you concerned about what you saw from Tom Brady in that offense?
Oh, I'm concerned about that offense. Like, you can only replace so many. I mean, Dante Scarnecchia's got more shout-outs on this show than the guy that dumped you for the prom. All right? Like, I mean, besides them two, we talk about, we talk about him more, like, we give him so much credit. But you need some talent to work with. You can't lose your left tackle again. You can't lose David Andrews, which I believe is one of the most underrated football players, the center there in New England, that we have. And continuing to lose players. And yesterday you could see, well, what about Dante Hightower? When Dante Hightower went out the game, you could run the ball through the middle of New England's defense. It was a totally different defense. So that's another injury that we must watch for. To me, this looked like Tom Brady in his first 5 years in the league. New England, brilliant special teams-wise. Oh, they get a block, punt for a touchdown. Field position-wise, we know that. And this defense, it is nasty. Now, lead the NFL in sacks. They do not have one premier pass rusher, but they're doing it with smoke, mirrors. Man, they will they cloud the line of scrimmage so bad that it confuses the quarterbacks. Now, let's see later on when they get some veteran quarterbacks, can they keep it up? I know that secondary is the best in football, and Tom is playing to that. Later in the season, he's not going, because I had to ask myself yesterday, if they're playing against 30 other offenses, do they win that game? And I would say no, because that was off. Josh Allen, quarterback rating 24. Barkley, I didn't even know who the backup was, and it was like, oh, it's Barkley. Oh, here we go again.
Quarterback rating 56. Which is terrible, but double Josh Allen's.
I mean, that's part of the reason why they've dominated this division for 20 years.
Because of their competition in the AFC East.
But New England, they do have some serious problems.
Yes.
And that offensive line, you could see they was getting to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady looked all of, how old is he?
42.
Oh, he looked 42 yesterday.
And he was not in the business of taking any hits. He was chucking and ducking, because the moment they blocked that punt, Brady celebrated during the middle of a regular season game in that block punt than I've ever seen, because he knew it was over. He had driven them down for a touchdown. They block a punt. Now they're up 13-0 to miss extra point. He's like, 13-0? They need 5 field goals to beat us now. Like, he knew the game was over. There's 2 buckets here. One is the Patriots defense. It's exceptional. They allowed their first touchdown they have allowed all year. And by the way, about a quarter second after the touchdown was scored, they forced a fumble. It was a Josh Allen dive over the line, fumble forced. So the defense continues.
And they did it without Dante Hightower yesterday.
Right. The defense continues to be great. But this is why Belichick and Brady fought to keep Antonio Brown. This is why the Patriots, while Pro Football Focus can say Tom Brady's been the best quarterback in the NFL, you need an offensive line to protect you. You need people who can catch the football. Josh Gordon wasn't super explosive. Philip Dorsett, who's been their second most productive receiver this year, looked a lot like Philip Dorsett's looked his entire career. Sony Michel continues to struggle to get on track, averaging 3 yards per carry this season. And the only reason they win that football game is because J.C. Jackson, an undrafted free agent from 2 years ago, has one of the greatest games any undrafted free agent's ever had.
Yes.
Blocked punt and 2 interceptions. He was sensational. That Pats offense could do nothing. They had a good opening drive that was benefited by a very, very nice third long conversion. And after that, they were drawing dead offensively against a very good Bills defense. But it's not the Bears defense. I don't think it's the best defense in the AFC, let alone the best defense in the entirety of the NFL. So to me, no, this was much more about the Patriots offense showing the warning signs that we had been seeing earlier in the season, but that were camouflaged by their competition. Much like Dallas, I wanted to see the Patriots against a team that could give a real defensive fight, and we saw it, and it didn't look good.
Nobody actually was happier yesterday than the kicker, Gostkowski, who the spotlight was taken off him for just a second. He has not been great the last 4, the stretch, whatever, 4 or 5 opportunities. But you laughed a little bit when Tom Brady said, hey, look, we'll take the win. A win is a win, whether we win by 45 points or 3 points.
Right.
Why do you disagree with that?
Well, the last couple of weeks, Tom Brady hadn't practiced on Wednesday and been limited on Thursday. They signed Cody Kessler as a backup quarterback to have 3 arms in the camp. Why? When they typically only have 2. When you see that they go out of their way, there was no new information about Antonio Brown. It was just pressure from the outside world before they signed him. And people say, well, the Texas and everything. Well, there was already a lawsuit. All right? There was already someone that was accusing him of not acting in a gentlemanly manner.
Sexual assault.
You know, so that's why the desperation. That's why we're going to try to get this player. Yes, and with Tom Brady, at some point, it is going to end, Jen, and I'd like to be able to say that I saw a couple little signs of it along the way.
Was yesterday a sign?
Yesterday was a sign that Brady understands his season will be determined by January, and he is not taking any hits that he does not have to, even if it might lead to a loss. Yesterday, his quick trigger with the football could have led to a loss against, you said 30 other teams, against 45 other quarterbacks. About 25 starting and 20 backups.
Yeah.
They would have lost that game, but it would have been worth it, and I don't blame him for this because he has to get out of the season clean and healthy. But yeah, like this Patriots offense is not going to be the
It's good enough to get them to 14-2.
Yeah.
But depending on the schedule and can they get home field advantage, which we know is very, very important, and you get that bye week. I do believe they will get a bye week, and they can ride this defense to 14-2 based on the way the schedule is. And, of course, the AFC East. Let's go. Hey, Jets. Hey, Miami. And we saw Buffalo, the best of the bunch yesterday.
All right. Well, the Patriots barely escaped Buffalo with a win to remain undefeated. Coming up, should the Cowboys be on high alert after a poor offensive performance last night? That's still ahead on First Things First.